talk about today the new updated fact sheet that the IRS has posted on 1/17/2025. This fact sheet is in relation to updates to frequently asked questions about the energy efficient home improvement credit and the residential clean energy property tax credit. Now, I just wanted to expand on some of these items as there are some key components, especially in relation to the energy efficient home improvement credit. If you find this video helpful, useful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Appreciate the support of the channel. Now, this is the way that things are today. There's not to say that the incoming administration won't try to eliminate any of these provisions within this fact sheet, but again, as this stands today on 1/20/2025, this is the way that things stand. And like I said, this was just posted out the other day. I'll post a link to it down below, but we're going to focus more on items that were added versus items that were updated. So again, as you can see, I think a lot of these items are in relation to that energy efficient home improvement credit. I would encourage anybody who's looking to do any of these items that are included in here to do it sooner rather than later, as we don't know what's going to be up and coming with the new tax law. It could end up being retroactive, or he could let it out through the end of 2025, or it could just stay in place altogether. But we'll have to wait and see with what happens with that. So let's jump right on into this. So again, we're just going to kind of scroll through. I made a couple of highlights throughout. So as you can see, next to each item here, this one was an updated number or an updated portion of it. So this really just this expands people who can claim the credit and what you need to do in order to claim it and what qualifies under it. So again, a lot of this stuff is similar, and the requirements are fairly similar, but I just wanted to touch on stuff that absolutely changed. We can kind of look here on some things that are not subject to the $600 cap or anything listed under here. So that's an electric or natural gas heat pump water heaters, electric or natural gas heat pumps. So those are items. So again, this is another item that's updated. So again, I'm not going to focus too heavily on that, as again, a lot of these provision hasn't changed. They maybe just expanded some of the wording, but again, updated. So here's something that was added. So this is a frequent question. So if you do install any of this qualified property that you install yourselves, it can be you can get the credit for it. Again, subject to the limits up above here. And again, there's a little bit more for energy for skilled consumers in your area in order to become a qualified one. Again, window treatments, blinds, shutters, or tinting eligible for the credit. This was added on January 17th. So these items are not available. So, this falls under the energy efficient building envelope component. That is not exterior windows, exterior skylight, or exterior door. Again, it must meet those components of the Energy Conservation Code. And so these items are not inclusive. So window treatments do not meet that requirement under the IECC, and they do not qualify for either of the two categories of credit that is listed in Section A1. Again, this is kind of where everything is. So these are the questions here for that particular item. So that one was added. We'll keep skimming down. So again, these items didn't really change too much. It's just maybe some expanded wording and some information in here. So I would strongly suggest, if you are thinking of doing something, to put a addition or something on your house that would fit into one of these items, you'd want to make sure that you check on this FAQs in here just to make sure that it stands. Question number 2, again, this one was added on January 17th, 2025. Does an energy efficient building envelope component consisting of insulation, material, or system have to meet the criteria established by the International Energy Conservation Code? And the answer is yes, it does. Again, it's stating the specific requirements and then what you need to do. This one here, where can you find information on that? It was added again on January 17th. And you can find more information on the insulation and air sealing requirements, as well as further details about ways to identify energy opportunities for savings and insulation air sealing in the Department of Energy webpage. We're going to keep going. Because those aren't really anything that's huge. There's some larger items that I did want to touch upon. I don't want to touch upon that one. Labor costs, that's just been updated, so you can include labor costs. So this credit in particular, so just keep in mind, this is the energy efficient home improvement credit. So this is really like your doors, your windows, insulation, whatnot. So this credit cannot be carried forward. So if you do not have a big enough tax liability in order to offset, the credit will be lost. So kind of keep that in mind. If you're a lower income, or maybe you're doing a whole bunch of improvements, just keep that in mind. In the event that you're able to get rid of your credit, this particular credit cannot be carried forward. This one was added. How long does this taxpayer have to claim the credit? So again, so anybody knows, you generally have 3 years from the date the return was due in order to file an amended return, and it is specifying that you can go back and amend your return for that particular tax year that you installed it in, and then get that tax credit as long as it's within one of the years that it applies to. Here it is again. You can generally, that's basically what we were saying, you can file an amended return for the particular year. So if you installed something in 2023, you can go back and amend your 2023 return as long as it falls within one of these items in here, and get that tax credit on a prior year return. All right, so now this is going to be a big one. These are items that have been changed, and my suspicion is that a lot of people and manufacturers have been stating that they've been installing energy efficient windows, doors, and whatnot in their home, and they were not in fact energy efficient, or they do not in fact adhere to the parameters within here. So the IRS is now requiring these manufacturers, known as a QM, so qualified manufacturer, they need to register with the IRS. And when they register with the IRS, they're going to have to provide information as far as what it is the particular item is, what makes it energy efficient, and then a pen will be assigned to that particular item that they will need to put on. They will need to put on as a physical label on the item so that the taxpayer can put that on their tax form in order to claim the credit. Again, so this is going to be a big one. That is new. And yep, so in order for any manufacturer to be eligible to sell products that are subject to this energy efficient home improvement credit, they must register with the IRS. So it's for anything that was placed in service after December 31st, 2024. It can be replaced because obviously it's going to take some time. So the qualified manufacturer will be required to provide a PIN and register with them and put it on all the products so that the consumer can file their return correctly. So again, it's not quite available yet, but it will be available to manufacturers in early 2025. It'll be on the irs.gov. And then the next one, how does a QM's qualified manufacturer assign PINs to specified property? And again, when you register it, the IRS will send a certificate to the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer will have to register that onto the IRS's website. So then when you go to e-file your return, you put that PIN on there, they can now track to say, okay, yep, there is in fact something was sold with this, and they can trace it back to your specific window. Kind of keep scrolling down. So again, this is another item. So qualified manufacturer, like I said, they must label it and furnish the PIN to the consumer. And again, so this is for property placed in the service on or after January 1st, 2025. So this is effective right now. They're basically, this part here is they're giving a leeway. So this is between now and the end of the year. When if the taxpayer places it into service in that particular year, the qualified manufacturer can provide a qualified manufacturer code in lieu of the 17-digit character PIN. So basically what that means is if they already had a product that was sold or that was manufactured, they don't have to go back and relabel it. Instead, when they sell it to you, as long as it hits the certifications, the clean energy and the energy efficient items, they are able to provide you with their qualified manufacturer code instead. So basically, once they get registered, licensed, then they can provide you that code, and you can use that in your 2025 tax return. But again, so this is a big item. So, I think the IRS was having some fraud with this, or just not being able to track and trace it, and people were just able to say, hey, I put $1,000 on my return and not really have installed any energy efficient products, or again, they don't meet the criteria for being qualified as an energy efficient product. And I think those are going to be basically the biggest item. It's really that PIN. And, this is really going to be a big item for manufacturers as well as consumers. as my guess is if you put this on your return going forward in next tax year, that your return will probably be rejected if you don't have the PIN number on there. And then again, it's just going into details on some of the other items that you need. Here is where it discusses that you will need the PIN to claim the credit. So again, for any specified property placed in service after January 1st, so this is effective right now for this up and coming tax year. So you need to keep this in mind for any energy efficient improvements you're going to be making to your home in this up and coming tax year. So you will need that PIN number or qualified manufacturer's code for the next year. And again, my assumption is that they may extend the qualified manufacturer's code into next year, just knowing that it's going to take some of these manufacturers a little bit to get everything up and running. And again, the list will be published, so you'll be able to go on the website so you can find qualified manufacturers. So, if you want to buy an Andersen window, they'll probably have a list of the Andersen window products that meet this criteria for the tax credit. And insulation is not applicable. So the code needs to be provided. So all this stuff is just about the code and the PIN. So I'm not going to kind of go into any specific detail about that. We'll keep going. So again, this is I mentioned before. So the credit is non-refundable. So basically that means you need to have a tax liability to offset. If you do not, it's not able to be carried forward. But let's not confuse this with the solar tax credit, whereas the solar tax credit is able to be carried forward. That's where we're getting here. We're going to just continue to skip down. So you're still going to continue to file the 5695, which was a form that was required to be filed prior to get the credit. Any rebates or whatnot, you're supposed to reduce your purchase price. I think that was also, specifically in line as well. So there's not really much in the way of changes there. It provides some specific examples, again, of how the credit limits work. So there's items that you have credit limits on that they're maxed out. So if you want to take a look and skim through these specific requirements, but again, I'm not going to go in great detail on these. And then again, the residential clean energy property credits, these are really solar panels. This is probably the biggest item on these. And then, there's not really much in change of requirements here. There's just some updated wording here. So again, as I mentioned, qualified solar electric expenditures, solar water heating property, qualified fuel cell expenditures, small energy property, geothermal heat pumps, and battery storage. So again, those are all items that are inclusive in this, and this is the 30% solar tax credit that is known. There's not that much in the way of changes within this section. But again, people who are installing roofs on their home, if a solar company is telling you the roof is eligible property, it is not, as it specifically states it here, since it's a structural component of the home. Again, there's no overall dollar limit for this credit, but again, in one particular year, you can only take a dollar limit that is equal to your tax liability. And this one is updated. So again, there's not really, these are just specific, qualifications for it, but majority of solar panels pretty much meet it. So again, going into qualifying residence. So basically you can't use it has to be your primary residence. You can't use it for greater than 20% business. Labor costs are able to be included in your solar panels. You can carry forward the credit, as I mentioned, whereas the other one you cannot. So kind of keep that in mind between the two. So solar panels is usually a larger expense. So therefore they're saying you are able to carry it forward as if you spend $30,000, in solar panels, you'll have a pretty substantial credit for that. And the credit is available for when you incur the expenses and when they are installed. Again, I had a video before on, technically when the items are placed in service. I still stand under the line of when it's installed, you pay for it, and when it's fully improved and operational. But again, if you want to take the stance that, hey, it's installed, I paid for it, we're just waiting for the final approval from the utility company. As long as you have documentation to support that, I don't see an issue with that. Again, this is just some items that were updated. These are all updated. So like the solar tax credit didn't really have much. Really the biggest thing that I wanted to touch upon, again, was that PIN that's going to be required for any of the doors and windows. That's going to be a requirement for up and coming. So again, if you found this video helpful, useful, Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps appreciate the support in the channel.